I have one question. The $16,577 additional revenue for our budget would come from a franchise fee, which is actually tacked on to the 125,000. Is that right?
Our franchise agreement with Dixon Sanitary Service says that 10% of their gross revenue comes back to the city in the form of a franchise fee. So they would be taking on additional revenue. 10% of that would come back to us, would be the 16,000 additional.
I think what happened is the 125,000 that we currently pay the contractor would not be coming out of the general fund. So that would take that expenditure away. We would get an additional revenue income of the 16,000. So you can't necessarily add the two together because you're taking one away, but you can add the additional 16,000.
Right. We're paying it out of somebody else's pocket.
There's still a fee for the service.
Adding
Absolutely
an
correct.
additional tax onto the homeowners.
That's what represents the $1.13 for residential service in their solid waste.
And then we would get back a $16,000 franchise fee.
That's correct. Currently, we collect a franchise fee from Dixon Sanitary for the solid waste collection. This would be in addition to that, part of the same agreement. You're amending that current agreement.
Can we waive that fee and lower the amount?
If you waive that fee, the amount that you would lower would probably be in the pennies range. I don't have a guesstimate for you. Would you? At 10% of the cost, I'm guessing you might be around $1 instead of $1.13.
That's about right.
Yeah. I would go along with that. I think I'd.
Rick, I'd like to address that. I was there when this was done. It was then City Manager Warren Solomons who addressed this as kind of a compromise situation. They had asked for a 7.3% increase. I had made the point that the franchise fee is just another tax that the sanitary service is collecting for the city on the citizens. It never should have been collected in the first place. That 10% amounts to about the same amount that we're paying for street sweeping services, about $125,000 or more. I figured at a $20 rate for 12 months, $240 and 5,000 services, that's $1,200,000 a year. So 10% of that would be $120,000. I think that's low, but the whole point of this thing is this was done so that the increase would be deferred, and that tax on the citizens wouldn't be being implemented anymore. I see this as just another method to put that tax back onto the people that are here in town that are already suffering under a bad economy and other things, and specifically done only to benefit the general fund and to resist the attempt to reduce our costs in other ways. I don't like the idea of doing this. There are other problems here. What this amounts to, or not other problems, but I'm looking at this and the options that we have. I'm kind of wondering, why would you go with a recommendation of using a service that's going to cost you $40,000 more than the one that you have existing, just so that you can get the benefit of a $16,000 franchise fee increase? I think that that's ridiculous. I would, if anything, I'm going to say go with contract sweeping services of Stockton for a cheaper amount and then decide where you're going to fund this from. I don't agree that it should come back out of the general fund. I think that because we collect that franchise fee that's unnecessary, that was appropriate at the time, and I think it's still appropriate.
Other comments? I probably, are coming at this from a different perspective. And it goes back to things that we have talked about in the past. At what point does the general fund continue to provide services that technically should be, in my opinion, borne by all of the people who benefit from that? It's like lighting and landscape districts. It's like the sewer enterprise fund. We all benefit from this, and my sense is that I never agreed that it should have come out of it should have been paid for in the general fund in the first place. You know, I remember the days when everybody swept their sidewalks and they swept their gutters. Well, that's a different time. People don't do that anymore. I think the potential for additional monies by keeping this in the general fund, or even taking away street sweeping, is not good management. I mean, we already have we already have an issue with our wastewater fund, or with our wastewater treatment plant. To continue not to do something or to reduce the services, I think in the long run could exacerbate that. Yeah, it's tough, but when we say that we're going to take things out of the general fund, we need to say that we will be able to sustain that. We did this when times were good. We had building going on, and it was done. I don't agree with that it comes out of the general fund. I think people, you know, that take pride in their city, take pride in living in Dixon, need to step up and help pay for that. I don't like to have my fees increased either, and it is difficult during this time. But at no time is it going to be good to raise any kinds of fees, and this is the problem that we've gotten into. We don't have a method to keep up with the cost of things. So that's where I'm coming from.
Jack, I'm with you. I know that at least 3 of us sat in this room the night that they voted to take this out of the Dixon Sanitary and put it into the general fund. And I remember thinking, this is going to come back and bite the city someday. This is not something that, you know, it's good now when you can take it out of the general fund and the general fund's fat, but someday it's going to come back and city council is going to be saying, oops, we made a mistake. And I didn't think at that time that I'd be one of those sitting up here saying the city made a mistake, but I certainly was thinking that when I sat down in the audience, and I'm going to say it now. I think we made a mistake. This is a service similar to your garbage, which is why it comes under Dixon Sanitary. They pick up the toters, they empty our toters, and then they come by and sweep the streets. And sometimes what they sweep up in the streets is what falls out of the toters because we are careless about how we fill them. And I think that this is a time that we all have to step up as citizens of this. We've said to every city employee, you have to take a 4.6% decrease in salary. You have to. If you're going to continue working for the city of Dixon, this is what you must do. And we've laid people off. And I think this is part of the citizens stepping up and saying, okay, we're going to bear a part of that burden too, and pay these fees to go along with our garbage. And it's part of being a citizen of a community that we have some pride in.